Tylenol caused all my autism, but I forgive Johnson & Johnson. I try not to hate 'cause it just deepens the schism. Besides, Orange President Grinch has enough hate in his tiny heart for all of us and then some. Oh God, please bring the rapture tomorrow. Take all these quote conservative wingnuts away. I promise I'll feel lots of proper sorrow, and the late night guys will have lots to say, 'cause nobody will be left to take all our freedoms away.
Yes, so good. Gareth Sever. That was great. We love it. All right. Shout out to Gareth. So good. He was at the Hangout with about, I don't know, like 60 other folks last night. Thank you to everybody who joined the Monday night Hangout. We only did about an hour because Mom and Dad are in town. That's right. Chisel D and my mom showed up yesterday for a couple days to celebrate my daughter's birthday, which is later this week. And I think I'm going to take Pop to a Yankees game tonight, which is pretty much one of his favorite things to do. And I always have a good time watching baseball with my dad. So looking forward to that. Hopefully tonight. Also supposed to be on CNN late night around 11, well, closer to 12 midnight with Laura Coates. But I was supposed to be on last night and I'm supposed to be on tomorrow. And you can get bumped, like an hour before or even a minute before for breaking news. So who knows? But we will see by watching CNN. If I'm there with Laura, great. And we're going to be talking about Jimmy Kimmel. Of course, that's the big news. And I've got your headlines and clips right now. Of course, I can't do any of this without you. Without your support, I have no show. And you have no country. So how about that? I book the show, I host the show, I produce it, edit it, and promote it. So whatever you can pay, whatever you're getting out of it, it's also completely ad-free. Paid for by listeners like you. Patreon.com/Pete Dominic. Tell your friends. And just a quick heads up, I'm scheduled to talk with Tim Wise today, 9 a.m. I will do that live on YouTube and Substack and everywhere else. So hopefully you'll be able to tune into that. Always great with Tim Wise. All right. Headlines. Let's start with, of course, the big news that broke late yesterday afternoon. And that is that Jimmy Kimmel is back. The crowd roars. They're on their feet. I certainly was very, very excited about that. That great news. It matters so much because money talks. And apparently some of the highest Google searches were for how to cancel Hulu, how to cancel Disney. So that might have been the canary in the coal mine for how many actual searches there were. I wonder if they have people at those companies tracking those things. I'm guessing they do. They definitely do, of course, because they want to be able to do their best to be able to predict what's, generally speaking, uncertain, and how many people did actually cancel and affect their bottom line. It's got to be that. I mean, I'm sure, but you would think they would make more money in these mergers, but maybe not. They worked for years to try to get people to pay for subscriptions, and then just in one fell swoop, thousands, millions of people just started canceling them. That's rough. And also awesome. The show was suspended indefinitely last week, but now apparently Jimmy Kimmel began negotiating his show's return last week, according to the New York Times, with Disney executives, including Robert Iger, the CEO. An initial meeting, they say, ended with Kimmel declining to agree to changes in a monologue he had planned to deliver on the matter. The two sides came to a resolution this morning, according to a senior executive. Kimmel's brief removal from air became a flashpoint for free speech, they say. President Trump celebrated the move and said that the government should consider revoking the license of networks that broadcasts criticisms of him. Remember that? That was an unbelievable thing that he said. Or, I mean, a very believable thing. But you'd think that maybe he'd be more careful with his language, but he just isn't. And I guess in some ways it's a good thing. He's telling us exactly what he thinks and what he's doing. I mean, obviously there are people across the political spectrum that condemned Kimmel's suspension as an attack on free speech and free expression. So it worked, and I'm very excited. Still unclear whether major television operators such as Nexstar and Sinclair are going to air future episodes of the show. But what are they going to air? Old episodes of Chips? I mean, they're still pursuing a merger, so they want to make daddy happy, but it'll be very interesting to see what airs on those networks as well. Maybe a PragerU special, or maybe their version of comedy. There's conservative comedy. The other big story yesterday, of course, is that our dear leader warned about a completely unproven link between Tylenol and autism. Of course, everybody's pointing to the fact that autism was a thing before Tylenol was a thing. But yesterday, the president hosted this really crazy event yesterday afternoon about autism with dumb Robert Kennedy standing beside him awkwardly, strangely. It was so weird and uncomfortable and terrible. And Tylenol is now, everybody's saying, going to sue the administration. That's going to be our money, taxpayer money. So, I mean, he just walks out, steps on his dick, can't pronounce the word acetaminophen. And the health secretary, which is Robert F. Kennedy Jr., were unbelievable. He said yesterday the FDA would issue a note to doctors about the risk of acetaminophen during pregnancy and begin the process to make a safety change in the label. And it's just, it's crazy. And I wonder how impactful that is amongst the number of things that they do. I mean, if they're just going to leave a note, well, women can still take acetaminophen or other drugs if they have fevers, especially during pregnancy, because apparently that's the most dangerous. I'll play a clip from an expert, a doctor on that. Really should be talking to Dr. Carroll. He's very busy. In other Trump administration news, well, the Supreme Court is going to allow him to fire a leader of the FTC, and the justice said they would shortly consider overturning the precedent that had prevented presidents from removing independent regulators. Why did they have rules against removing independent regulators, I wonder? New York Times is also reporting that Trump appointees are trying to limit enforcement of fair housing laws, which is exactly what you do if you want to be. I mean, this is the government being racist. How is it racist? Oh, well, Trump interviews and internal documents show that signature civil rights protections in housing are being dismissed as ideologically driven and DEI in disguise. Really important report from the New York Times. And this is dependent on dozens of memos, text messages, and emails written by employees of HUD's Fair Housing Office. So they are leaking to the Times, and that's a good thing. And soon they will find themselves without a job, and fair housing will just be for whites. Okay, well, it's another way to make America white again. I mean, if you see that everybody in the building is white, and then outside the building, all the black people are screaming, how come we can't come in? And then the white people say, well, we locked the door. Well, that's racist. You're preventing the people of color from living in the building. That's why we had an entire civil rights movement. And that's why they passed a whole raft of laws and policies and regulations, because black people were outside the building screaming, let us in. This is bullshit. And the white people were inside the building saying, no, we don't like black people. We don't want you to bring in all your fancy lotions and moisturizers and your music and your foods. We don't like it. We prefer to be here with our banjos. Okay, sorry, just riffing. It's just so deeply offensive, and I'm trying to find the easiest way to explain it to the dumbest baby. All right, moving on. A judge ruled that construction on a wind farm off Rhode Island could proceed for now after the administration halted work last month, at the end of the month. They halted work on the $6.2 billion Revolution Wind project that was 80% completed already. This was one of the craziest headlines and read one of the dumbest things that they'd done. Enough renewable clean energy for more than 350,000 homes in Rhode Island and Connecticut by next spring. So I think this is great news that it's going to advance for now. I hope you're listening, Kevin Richburg. You'd probably say, well, the Supreme Court's going to strike it down. And maybe you would be right. But for now, it is good news. So why don't you go watch videos of that fox that is eating all of your nectarines, which is fine. You're happy about it. It's not like you're upset about it. But he shared this surveillance video that he had of the fox. I love these surveillance cams that you can watch nature. with, I think those are pretty cool, actually. All right, sorry, getting off the headlines here by attacking Kevin. I also want to mention that several leaders from across the globe, including the French president, convened in New York yesterday to formally recognize Palestinian statehood at the beginning of the UN General Assembly, which is kicked off. Roughly 150 nations now consider Palestine a sovereign nation over opposition from Israel and the U.S. And it's just, I mean, this is something that people have been fighting for a very long time and has been vetoed for a very long time by America and a few friends that we put pressure on. The recognition is a highly symbolic move intended to help salvage the prospect of a Jewish state of Israel alongside a Palestinian one, which is looking as distant as ever, according to the New York Times, as the Gaza war nears the end of its second year. In practice, they say the recognition of a Palestinian state is unlikely to change the reality on the ground. But still, I think that is a major thing. I mean, it was never going to necessarily change the reality on the ground, but this is big. I believe that this is big. Also, in big news, the new H-1B visa was created in 1990 to grant visas to skilled foreign workers, is apparently mostly going to impact people from India who are coming to America to work. Indians have accounted for a vast majority of the recipients. So now Trump has announced that every new H-1B visa application would come with a $100,000 price tag. It knocks down a crucial bridge between the economies of the U.S. and India, according to the Times. It had lured a generation of Indian professionals, including multiple top CEOs, that take part in the American dream, they say. I mean, that's crazy. And going to create all kinds of unforeseen issues, I'm sure. Or maybe it'll create opportunity for other people, but it's corrupt as hell. And it is limiting to people who only have, be able to find, I don't know, off the top of my head, maybe I can talk to an immigration expert that'll say that it's going to be a good thing. But please let me know if you hear that. More analysis. All right. Now, also should mention one of the largest measles outbreaks in the U.S. is now centered in bordering areas of southwestern Utah and Arizona. In southwest Utah, all but one of the 23 confirmed cases are among unvaccinated school-age kids. Experts think all of these cases are connected, and so now there have been 42 confirmed cases of the highly contagious virus in yet another measles outbreak, something we hadn't had for a very long time until the doubt sown around vaccines was created by you-know-whos. Also should mention the Securities and Exchange Commission this week dropped civil enforcement cases that could have led to penalties totaling hundreds of millions of dollars against 3 men who were previously granted clemency by guess who? That's right, the Don. Devin Archer, Trevor Milton, and Carlos Watson were convicted in fraud schemes totaling hundreds of millions of dollars, but now they will not be required by the government to pay back their own victims. This is such a terrible, terrible, terrible thing. This guy, Devin Archer, was convicted in connection with a scheme targeting pension funds, and a Native American tribal entity was ordered to pay nearly $60 million in forfeiture and restitution. So the dude stole money from people's retirements. They'd worked their whole lives, and he took their money with a scheme and got caught and went to jail. And now Trump is saying, you know what? Pardoned, and you don't have to pay those people back. What? The other guy, Trevor Milton, was found guilty of lying about the supposed technical achievements of his electric truck maker, Nikola. Prosecutors recommended that he pay more than $660 million back to shareholders he'd scammed. Nope. And finally, that guy, Carlos Watson, was convicted of defrauding investors in his digital media company, OZ Media. It was assessed penalties of nearly $97 million, and all of them have now been spared, serving prison time and paying overwhelming majority of their criminal restitution obligations. So that is a terrible, terrible story. And if you're outraged, good. That's the right emotion. And finally, the Department of Transportation threatened Friday to potentially withhold funding from Chicago and Boston if their transit authorities could not improve safety for passengers and workers. Transportation Secretary and former MTV Real World star Sean Duffy issued the warning in a pair of letters sent to the heads of the Chicago Transit Authority and Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority. So I don't know what that's all about, but I'm sure it's bullshit because that guy's involved and it's the Trump administration. But maybe it's going to make the public transit safer in those two cities. And even if it is, I'm pretty sure that's probably not the way to do it. All right, folks, those are the headlines that I've gathered for you today. And now let's get to the clips. Time for the clip show. Let's start with Howard Stern commenting on Jimmy Kimmel, who he's very good friends with, on SiriusXM yesterday. This was before it was announced that Jimmy would be back. And apparently Howard, if he knew, he wasn't going to let on. But actually, I'm sure it was agreed upon after Howard aired. But here it is.
I have spoken to Jimmy. I didn't ask him these questions. I just asked him how he was doing personally. I just know when the government begins to interfere, when the government says, I'm not pleased with you, so we're going to orchestrate a way to silence you. It's the wrong direction for our country. And I should know. I've been involved in something like this. And now ABC is put in the same position. And it's unfortunate that ABC even has to be in this position. They shouldn't have to be in this position. I feel for them, too, in this. But that someone's got to step up and be fucking saying, hey, enough, we're not going to bow. Now, it might sound stupid, but the thing I did, this morning I'm canceling my Disney Plus. I'm trying to say with the pocketbook that I do not support what they're doing with Jimmy.
All right, there you go. I thought that was good. Also, Kamala Harris was on Rachel Maddow last night. She has already done Joy Reid's show. Should find some clips from that as well. But I've just got this one from Rachel Maddow last night. I don't think it needs.
And here's the thing. Democracy sustains capitalism. Capitalism thrives in a democracy. And right now we are dealing with, as I called him at my speech on the ellipse, a tyrant. We used to compare the strength of our democracy to communist dictators. That's what we're dealing with right now in Donald Trump. And these titans of industry are not speaking up. And perhaps it is because his threats and the way he has used the weight of the federal government to take out vengeance on his critics is something that they fear, and I get that. I understand why they do. We've seen the demonstration of it. Perhaps it is because they want to please him and nominate him for a Nobel Prize. Perhaps it's because they want a merger approved or they want to avoid an investigation. But at some point, they've got to stand up for the sake of the people who rely on all of these institutions to have integrity and to, at some point, be the guardrails against a tyrant who is using the federal government to execute his whim and fancy because of a fragile ego.
All right. There you go. I thought that was interesting. The whole interview is, and I recommend that one as well. Watch it at Joy Reid too. All right. Here now, I'm going to just keep playing these wherever I see them. If I see a farmer talking about they're struggling to sell their crop because of Trump's tariffs and trade war, I'm going to play it for you. This one is from the Fox affiliate in Ohio.
Farmer Donnie Lawson is having to rethink his expenses for fertilizer and new equipment this month.
It's not only your gross income, but it's your net income.
China hasn't placed any new orders from Indiana or any other U.S. states at all in recent weeks.
It really doesn't come as any surprise that China's doing this. Any country that has an issue with the United States, the first thing they usually attack is agricultural commodities.
One of the four directors of the United Soybean Board, Tom Griffith, says this not only hurts the farmers, but the economy as a whole. That
means that anybody involved in the automotive industry, technology field, anybody who's build wiring harnesses, trucking, all these industries will suffer because of it.
His board has been working to weaken their dependence on China as they predicted this for several years. Now other countries are starting to become larger purchasers instead.
You look at all the other different countries, whether it's Japan and all those that want our products.
Lawson is thankful to have a diverse set of crops to help stay afloat while the soybean industry takes a hit, and is hopeful that next season will be different.
I'm probably certain that the Trump administration will do something to offset the losses we're going to suffer this fall. It's going to be needed and welcome. But again, we would prefer just to have those open markets.
Yeah, you'd prefer to sell the things that you grow to people for them to eat, and animals maybe for them to eat. You prefer not to grow the things and then just let them die or burn them and waste them. All the resources, all the fuel that is used in all the machinery, all the water that is used to irrigate, and all of the fertilizer and chemicals, all of it, and all of the time, the farmer's time, just wasted. All the fuel that goes into the transportation of all those raw materials, it's just all wasted. It's such a sad and tragic thing that we've done to ourselves by turning away from the rest of the world for fear. All for fear. Okay, let's go to Jon Stewart last night on The Daily Show, who was great.
The administration teased a big announcement on the cause of autism. As you know, the administration teased a big announcement on the cause of autism today. Oh, ye of little faith. So let's get right to it. This is obviously a very serious moment for the world and the United States of America. To the White House, what is the cause of autism?
The use of let's see how we say that. Acetaminophen. Is that okay?
No, it is not okay. We would like a second opinion and a third pronunciation. Look, there's already a ton of controversy around the lack of data tying acetaminophen in pregnancy to autism. And you can't even be bothered to pronounce the f***ing word correctly? Until maybe you get to the one word you recognize from your medicine cabinet?
Which is basically commonly known as Tylenol.
Well, I'm sure now they're known as Plaintiff A. Acetaminophen. That's when you know, when he looks up, that's his tell that he recognizes the word. Tylenol. Meanwhile, on other ABC News, young Jimmy Kimmel's coming back to television. I'll tell you, Jimmy Kimmel's flying high like Advil today. Acetaminophen's boom. Advil's like, what's up, motherfucker? You got a headache? Where you gonna turn? No, Kimmel's coming back. That campaign, and you know what? I'm joking around. I want to say this seriously. That campaign that you all launched, pretending that you were going to cancel Hulu, while secretly racing through 4 seasons of Only Murders in the Building. That really worked. Congratulations. Wasn't it interesting to try and figure out all the tentacles Disney has in your daily life? It's one thing to swear off cruises, but the Avengers? Nah. How is it possible that by getting rid of one company, I can't watch Winnie the Pooh or Monday Night Football? Or listen to early Hillary Duff? So yesterday, I would sing more of it. Obviously, Disney is very litigious.
All right, there you go. Jon Stewart last night at Daily Show. Now here's Dr. Vin Gupta on the Midas Touch channel talking about the dumb announcement yesterday from Trump and RFK on acetaminophen and pregnancy and autism.
So it's an embarrassment for the FDA. They can't defend it. Trump's out there saying don't take Tylenol writ large. What does that mean? And oh, by the way, something to keep in mind for all the moms out there, just to make sure that they feel like they're being heard. Talk about lack of empathy. First of all, they're trying to control the bodies of women. Secondarily, they're saying, hey, listen, they're shaming them about what they should and should not take in the absence of evidence. It is very clear that if pregnancy-related pain not responsive to massages, cold compresses, non-medication related interventions, if that goes untreated, Ben, that's a harm to baby. You can't just sit there with a fever, or you can't sit there with unmitigated pain. That's going to harm baby too. And so they didn't talk about that. They didn't also talk about the fact that there's an equity issue here too. A lot of the women that experience this are the ones that don't actually have durable access to healthcare. So yes, they might reach more for interventions to help them get through pregnancy related pain. If there's a real risk here, they should cite it. They should look at the real data. There isn't. But the fact that he's putting this out there, blanket statement, don't take Tylenol, there isn't another option, number one. Number two, it is safe. That's what the best quality research shows. And how irresponsible going on using the podium of the White House to put this out there when you're not even offering an alternative. You're just telling people to sort of grit their teeth through it. That is dangerous. An untreated fever is dangerous. Untreated pain in pregnancy, dangerous.
All right. Well said. And I said earlier, it's dumb. It's also, dangerous and terrible and bad and cruel and ignorant. And we're all going to pay for that in many ways too. More damage done. Now, let's go to CBS. It's The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. And then we'll get to my conversation with Eric Segall.
We do like 160 of these a year or something. And you know, when I have the chance, it's always nice to start the show with some good news. Well, just a few hours before we tape this broadcast, we got word that our long national late nightmare is over. Because Disney announced that Jimmy Kimmel Live will return to air on ABC tomorrow, Tuesday night. Come on! Yes, sir. As well as should be. This is, this is wonderful news for my dear friend Jimmy and his amazing staff. They get to do the show. That's right. You know, I'm so happy for them. Plus, now that Jimmy's not being canceled, I get to enjoy this again. Yeah. I was just, once more, I am the only martyr in late night. Wait, unless, CBS, you want to announce anything? Still no? Right, because the money thing, I forgot. Yeah, the money thing. Yeah. Now, Disney put out a statement which said, last Wednesday, we made the decision to meow, 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 whatever. Here's why Disney folded. After Kimmel was suspended, Google searches for cancel Disney Plus and cancel Hulu spiked, which explains why the other trending search was how to entertain feral child without Bluey, ? So Disney put Kimmel back on because you, the American people, were upset, okay? But not just people, also Ted Cruz. It's true. Cruz was one of the conservatives who were outraged by the administration's attack on free speech.
He threatens explicitly, we're going to cancel ABC's license. We're going to take him off the air so ABC cannot broadcast anymore. He threatens it. He says, we can do this the easy way or we can do this the hard way.
Yeah.
And I got to say, that's right out of Goodfellas. That's right out of a mafioso coming into a bar going, nice bar you have here. It'd be a shame if something happened to it.
Wow, I gotta say, I am shocked that I agree with Ted Cruz on something. But I'm even more shocked that he somehow got Robert De Niro to come on the podcast. That was beautiful. Meh, see, meh, I'm taking off the air. See, meh, I'm the FCC. Meh, meh. ABC was being flooded with complaints about taking Jimmy off the air, but not all those complaints went to the right place because down under, the Australian Broadcasting Company, which also goes by the initials ABC, was being barraged by misdirected complaints about the Kimmel suspension. Come on, folks. Leave him alone. Don't attack Australian ABC. I mean, there's nothing. They never canceled their popular late night host, Horrifying Giant Spider. Good ratings, good ratings. Anyway, welcome back, Jimmy. Long may you wave.
Yeah, there you go. Last night on CBS, there it was. And tonight, Kimmel is back. He's going to get a 6-minute standing ovation, I predict. And it's going to be a major triumph. And he's not going to pull his punches. And that is what I think will happen. That's what I think will happen. Okay. Well, let's get to Eric Segall. He and I caught up yesterday. We were live on YouTube and Substack and all the rest. And we had a great conversation about his most recent post at dorfonlaw.org titled The Big Chill. What can a law professor say and not say these days? He writes, the air is turned chilly for university academics and administrators. And then he goes on. I just wanted to read the first few words. Okay. Segall, of course, is a very close friend of mine. Many of you know him and have met him at this point. He is a constitutional law professor at Georgia State University down there in Georgia. He is also the author of 2 books and the host of a podcast and a father and a husband. And he's got 3 daughters, and I love him and we love him. And so here was our conversation yesterday. Go read the piece at dorfonlaw.org. I've shared it on the socials, connected it, linked it in today's show notes. Let's do it. This was live yesterday on YouTube. Thanks to all who watched. Yeah. Eric Segall. There he is. And he's got a very serious issue to discuss. Hello, Professor Segall. Welcome back. And thank you very much for joining me today, Monday, around 12:30. Everything's fine.
I'm a little surprised you know what time it is, given you were awake at 2:40 a.m. last night, based on a text message that I received this morning. I was not awake at 2:40 a.m.
I drove all day. I took the ferry. I was at Martha's Vineyard for the weekend.
Oh, nice. I used to go there every summer for 25 years.
Did you really? It's wonderful there. I would like to live there. Do you know anybody I could live there rent-free?
I used to. I did used to. South Beach. That's where we were. It's a great place.
What if I pitched? I was like, I'm a decently known, decently influential progressive media person. I need to hide, and this is where I'd like to hide, but I can't afford to speak out and with the courage that I have.
Well, after this morning's blog post that I wrote, I might also have to hide.
You may join me in our undisclosed. I think we'll be living like over a garage, maybe just to it, like Oscar and what is the odd couple names?
Unfortunately, there is no place in Martha's Vineyard that is not unconscionably expensive and absurdly high priced. But
put us up for free. That is like you're helping fight for freedom of speech and for to fighting MAGA by hosting me in your garage in Martha's.
To be clear, I'm thinking about fighting for freedom of speech.
Right. That's the issue at hand today. You've written a piece. It's very provocative. It's getting a lot of attention from your colleagues. It's titled The Big Chill. What can a law professor say and not say these days? And you start the piece by pointing out where professors have lost their jobs, including a president of Texas A&M was forced to resign over what looks, you write, like a disagreement between a religious student and a professor about the proper content of the professor's course and a skirmish over gender ideology. Oh, and by the way, that professor at Texas A&M was fired too. You've written a very interesting piece, and you've framed it in such a way that's kind of crafty.
As I say in the piece, I live in a very blue city that, by the way, the president hates and has always hated because of John Lewis. They used to feud. I live in a very blue city, Atlanta, in a state that votes purple nationally. We have 2 senators who are Democrats, but is run completely by the Republican Party. And I'm not judging that. I'm just saying those are the facts, not judging anything. And because of that, I have to be careful with what I write and what I say for the first time in my career. Never before, maybe last month, have I ever self-censored myself based on fear. I've self-censored myself based on other things, but not fear. It is a very terrifying time for everybody, I guess.
You have blog posts, articles, 2 books, podcast appearances, and more where you've said everything. So can't they just go back and retroactively punish you? What are you worried about? You're worried about speaking out, moving forward, giving the new rules, the new regime, and its enforcement against people they don't like and promotion, I think, of people they do like. Why not just join the team and start touting MAGA values?
Because I don't want to be fired yet. So let me give an example. Your audience knows, I'm sure, and aboard by my constant refrain that the Supreme Court is not a court and its justices are not judges because they don't take law seriously enough to deserve the label court and judge. I've been saying this now for a long time. I think I can say that today. In fact, I just did, and I'm happy to say it. Now, I'm not saying the following. I'm not saying it. But if I wanted to say, which I don't, but if I did, that the president is not a real president, just like the court is not a real court, because the president is not, I'm not saying this, I'm just saying, because he's not acting like a real president, in this environment, I would be afraid to say that, which is not, which I'm not saying, which is a bad place for a law professor to be. One more example real quick. Again, your followers know that I have come very hard on Justice Thomas. Because the fact
you said I have come very hard on Justice Thomas. We all heard it. So I don't know if you're allowed to say that. You're not allowed to say that on video. Maybe rephrase it for God's sake. That's where I step in and tell you what you can and can't say. Good God, sir.
I have been very critical of Justice Thomas for the facts, which he has never denied, that among other things, billionaire Harlan Crow helped pay for his mother's house, his child's private school tuition, and and his wife's salary for the Heritage Foundation, which is now 2025. I've been very critical of Justice Thomas for that. And I think I can still be critical of Justice Thomas for that and not get in too much trouble. But if I were to say, and I'm not saying this at all, but were I desirous to say that maybe the president's family getting involved with $5 billion of cryptocurrency maybe is something that we should possibly think about, maybe someday thinking about, maybe that's not appropriate, I would be afraid to say that. And to be clear, I'm not saying that, but I would be a little bit afraid to say that.
I don't like this. I don't like this.
I could go on and on if you want me to, but I'll stop. Well, actually, one more. I am very fond of criticizing Supreme Court opinions based on the actual words they write. So in 2006, the Chief Justice of the United States, in a case that should never have come out the way it did involving Louisville and Seattle, where both cities, let's talk about Louisville, which had been segregated under law for a century, wanted to have more desegregation. And they voluntarily, parents, teachers, school boards, politicians, voluntarily decide to use a couple minor racial ideas and preferences so that 8-year-old white kids would go to school with 8-year-old black kids. It's a big case. The Supreme Court said they couldn't do that in a terrible decision. It's called Parents Involved. And Justice Roberts' last sentence of that opinion, in his own words, is one of the dumbest things anyone's ever said, which is the way to stop discrimination based on race is to stop discriminating based on race. There was no discrimination in that case. It's a horrible sentence. Even Justice Kennedy said this, that's a stupid idea, blah, blah, blah. Now, if I wanted to use the president's own words in a way, without even embellishment, just to repeat the president's own words. Say, for example, last week he said that maybe the FCC should to revoke ABC's licenses because of things he doesn't like. He said that, not me. Or some words he said about an entire gender, which he's never denied saying years ago. I just wanted to repeat those words without any editorializing, which I don't want to do. But if I did, I could get in huge trouble. That's the world we're living in, and that's insanity.
I guess a lot of people aren't going to cry crocodile tears. Tenured law professor who is, with all due respect, towards the end of his time at
maybe
today. But the larger issue to me also seems that I've seen Board of Education members being fired, attacked. Obviously, Jimmy Kimmel, you're seeing teachers in public school being fired, people in the private sector companies being canceled, especially as a result of things they posted around the Charlie Kirk assassination. And I guess when I hear you say it, for me, it's like, well, you're supposed to have protections as a tenured professor at a public institution in this case, but also you're a con law professor. So you should be able to be talking about all of these issues with a pretty wide purview, as wide of a lane as I can think almost.
Pete. The Texas A&M case involves an expert on children's literature teaching a course on children's literature. One of the issues that normally comes up in college courses on how to teach about children's literature is what topics are appropriate and what topics aren't appropriate. That goes to gender and all those issues. That teacher was an expert in that, and that teacher got fired for talking about that. So, yes, a con law professor should be able to talk con law at a state school, but no more than a children's literature teacher should be allowed to talk about children's literature at a state school. Your point is valid. I'm not asking for crocodile tears. Your audience knows me better than that. What big tears. What I am asking for is an awareness that America has shifted dramatically. A Texas congressman on Friday, and I had to reread this 4 times, cited Joseph Goebbels, Hitler's right-hand man, for the proposition that it is the responsibility of the state to form public opinion. School board, people who work for the government have free speech protections, but only in theory, and only as far as the courts are going to allow it to happen, and then only as far as the president or the governor or the mayor or the head of the school board is willing to abide by court decisions. And all of that is in grave jeopardy. If anyone, I've seen clips of the Charlie Kirk ceremony yesterday. And the clips that I've seen, and of course, I'm just going to say it, of course, it's a terrible tragedy that he was assassinated. It's awful. It's terrible. And there's no period, no more discussion of that. But this event in Arizona was all about revenge, people off, shutting people down, eliminating enemies. Being at a very liberal university with a large minority enrollment, and in fact, Georgia State has been applauded where I teach, the university, not the law school, the university. Front page New York Times a few years ago. We graduate more minority students percentage-wise than any school in the United States. At least we did a couple of years ago. I think we still do. Makes sense. Downtown Atlanta, it makes sense. This university is doing a great thing for people of color and have been for a while now. By doing this show, I am potentially making it a target, and I hate that idea. So I am doing it in my own way, Pete. I am trying to make my own contribution. But there's only so far I can go unless I'm really ready to say, okay, fine, I'm eligible for. Now, if they fired me for comments like this, would I have a free speech claim? Sure. Would I win? I don't know. Would it cost me much money to litigate it? Yes. And forgetting me, my younger colleagues who don't want to retire in the next couple of years, people are being silenced by these threats. That's not debatable. I think they would say that's good. And that is just not in the American tradition. It just isn't. I don't care what party you're in. I don't care if you're conservative, liberal, libertarian. I mean, libertarians are really upset these days. Federalist Society libertarians are really upset.
So are a lot of most comedians, most journalists and pundits and commentators about what is happening right now. The firing of Jimmy Kimmel is such a high profile firing, and he's one of the top comedians in the country, most well known. And so to come for a comedian seems pretty obvious not to do because he's a comedian. It's not like the principal, the president of a college, or the chief of police, or a senator, or someone who is in any kind of really powerful position in terms of the private sector or the public sector. But this is a, quote, entertainer. But we know there's a history of this. And if they're going, this thing is, if they're going to go for someone as high profile as Kimmel and the way that they're doing it, what protections does pretty much anyone else have?
Exactly. And what I said to you a year ago, and probably 6 months ago too, is the moment to truly panic is not when people get fired, but when people get arrested. We're not there yet. No hope, hype. But given Donald Trump's message to Pam Biondi on Twitter, where he basically instructs her to prosecute Schumer and Letitia James and others, when a high profile person like that gets arrested, then, and I don't think with Pete, I don't know. I'm not saying this. I'm just contemplating, thinking about it. I'm not sure, but I think we might be getting close to that moment in time, which would really not be very, we have congressmen citing
Goebbels not a good place. Yeah, I really wish I would have thought ahead of time and paid your wife to throw a black hood over your head right now, pull you out of screen, I go viral, and I've finally created the moment I need to become a titan in broadcasting.
By the way, speaking of my wife, who you brought up, Lynn posted on Facebook, I want to say Saturday, or maybe Friday night, nothing other than an article from the 1930s about girls, I saw this. Yeah, arresting comedians. First you go sorry, Pete, but you may be first to go. First you go after the comedians. Some of the response, Lynn grew up in Texas, and some of her high school, I won't call them friends, associates, follow her. And their reaction to that simple, she didn't say anything, no editorial comment, just posted it.
I got to see the responses. But, I just heard about John Oliver had this in part of his segment last night where he used a clip of the reporter Julia Yaffe, who's a Russian expert, talking about how Vladimir Putin actually basically got rid of a comedian who from a show that was ridiculing him at the beginning of his regime. And so this is not without parallel. I mean, Lynn.
But to be clear, neither you nor I right now are ridiculing Donald Trump. We're not doing that. We're thinking about doing that, but we're not.
I would never. Is that what I'm supposed to say? My ex-wife.
I don't want you sent to the gulag.
My ex-wife texted me this morning, and she's like, "I just saw your CNN appearance," and it
was great,
and she's like, it's terrifying for me that you're out there doing that, and she's not wrong. Like, she's not wrong. I cannot.
No, and I almost didn't do this. And in fact, let's tell the audience the truth. I taught class last Wednesday night from 6 to 9, and at 9:02 I came out, and you had texted me and said, "Have you heard about Jimmy Kimmel, and do you want to go live?" 9 times out of 10, when you ask me to go live in at event happening, I say yes. I said no
because it's time for my nappy. You said it's time for my nappy.
Well, that too, but I needed time to reflect on what I can and cannot say. Which is just, especially for someone who has been outspoken like me in my circles, in my stupid, nerdy circles, I'm pretty outspoken, given I think the court's not a court. But I am really afraid of this moment.
Do you think that maybe I should maybe take a beat before I accept invitations to go on national television and run my mouth? Because I don't have that same safety valve, and I could easily lose it all. I think that's and it's not lose it all. It's not only like, I don't really worry about like getting gunned down. I don't think that's going to happen. But even if it did, like, it sounds like a wonderful death. But I worry about my kids.
I don't agree. I don't agree with that.
Like dying doing what you love. Like, it's not in this case. It's not unlike my dad, riding into a tree on his bike or skiing into a tree. It's like, hey, at least I was proud of what I was doing. But I worry about obviously my kids, their safety, their careers, their reputations, because as you know, they've come for me before, and that was as a local school board thing. It wasn't as a result of my appearance on Joe Rogan or something I ran my mouth on CNN. But I mean, we all do need to be concerned, and I hate it so much. I hate it, and maybe I should just quit it all and become a horseshoe farrier for the regime.
I had a very good conversation with my oldest friend, who is an epidemiologist, PhD in vaccines from Johns Hopkins, who, of course, his life is being ruined these days, obviously. And he lives in D.C., and he's gone to the protests, and he's kind of mouthed off a few times to the National Guards people in D.C. And so I said to him, I've known him my whole life, I said, "Are you willing to get arrested for all this?"
I mouthed off to the National Guard in D.C. too.
And his answer was this, and I think this applies to you and me as well. If I'm going to get fired or arrested, or you're going to get canceled or arrested, it better be for a really good cause.
Or I should get for more than a few likes on my post, at least.
Exactly. And that's why his advice, and I almost said this to you before I came on today. Or maybe we'll do this. What I would really like to do, Pete, is try to round up 5 or 6 other constitutional law professors, some of whom might be Republicans, some of whom might be libertarians, and then really say what we feel. That might be worth it. Because whether you can do arrest all 6 of us, fire all 6 of us, maybe. You should get together with a bunch of comedians, maybe some famous ones if you can, and make some kind of statement in numbers. And if that leads to something terrible, at least you tried your best to make as big as
I'm trying to think if this betrays anything. It doesn't. And it's kind of a humble brag. But Patton Oswalt reached out to me, sent me a nice note because he saw my appearance.
Great.
And I was like, thank you. It's great to hear from you. That's really mean, and all the things that you think I would say. But then I was like, I just asserted to him, so I know a lot of the biggest comedians in the business, but I don't want to be like telling the older kids what to do. But I'm kind of thinking and kind of surprised that we haven't seen something yet. I'm not in the full loop with comedy anymore, but.
Well, I mean, the big ones, David Letterman.
But all I'm saying is like Patton, Letterman, Colbert, all the Mark Twain Award winners, Conan, you name it, all the elder statesmen, including Jay Leno, including the guys who are more conservative, they should all be in solidarity on camera somewhere like We Are the World, white, black, male, female, gay, straight, old, young, the oldest, by the way, the legends all the way to the edgiest young guy should all be saying the same thing. And they should all say something deeply offensive. They should say the 7 words. They should all do, if we sat around and thought of some creative ideas, we could all be like, let's recreate George Carlin. Let's do something to show a solidarity. So I wish comedians would do that, and I wish law professors would do that. People whose job it is, teachers, to speak freely and without fear or favor. Yeah, like, where's Rachel Maddow leading this?
Yeah, I agree with that. Pete, I didn't tell you I was going to
nobody at MSNBC apparently, that poor son of a bitch, Matthew Dowd, and I never liked him anyway. He got fired by MSNBC. And he's like, no one can my defense at MSNBC. He's like whining like a little on social media. He's like, no one at MSNBC said something. Now, I think that looks bad, but it's also true. Like, people at the network didn't say anything. The women on The View, on ABC's The View, didn't even mention it. So like, once they touch your network, you get scared. And it's partially the reason why I'm no longer at SiriusXM, because I raise a stink over Steve Bannon. And until then, I was the company boy. They loved me. But then when I, started being difficult and speaking out publicly, like, you're not that good.
Yeah, no, it's terrifying. I'm trying in my own way to.
They lost hundreds of dollars when they let me go, SiriusXM.
Pete, can we go serious for a moment? Speaking of SiriusXM, let's go serious for one moment. Something really terrible happened in Atlanta this weekend that no one knows about. I just learned about.
Did the sink on your guest room break?
It is shocking to me. I want to talk about this. There's a comedy club in Atlanta that's been around for 40 years, 50 years, The Punchline.
Yeah.
I played there, is my guess. Yeah. And I used to visit it quite frequently. I like stand-up comedy. And it's a great place to see comics. And I think they get most of the top A-list people who do club shows. Club. Well, this weekend, they had 3 comedians, I guess. And the last one, this is according to a couple lawyers who were there, who are people of color. The last one didn't try to be funny. The last one didn't try to entertain. From what this report says, allegedly, the last one was simply making hate statements about the LGBT community and people of color. These 2 lawyers, these 2 people were sitting towards the front, and the person on stage, I don't know the person's name, the person on stage was literally lashing out at them for being people of color. And it was just a race. I agree with what you've always said about comedy. If it's funny, it's all that matters. Nothing else matters. He was not trying to be funny.
Okay, I'd like to. Maybe he was trying to be funny and they didn't think he was funny.
I don't think so. That's not how it's being described to me. And the Punchline did nothing about it. These people didn't feel safe.
What was the name of the comedian? How come we can't? Are we not naming the comedian?
Well, you can find out.
I can't. They don't have it. I'm trying to look, and they don't have like past dates. They only have future dates, which makes sense.
I want people to accept that this happened, and then I want to make this point. I don't judge people, especially people of minorities and people of color, if they want to sit this out for. If they want to sit this out for a while. And I don't judge law professors who are responding to me privately this morning saying, that's great, but they won't say it publicly because they're afraid. In this environment, it is okay to be afraid, and I think we should be careful about judging people for being tentative, as I'm being a little bit this morning. And that should drop. This is new to us. McCarthyism happened, and McCarthyism was terrible. And it lasted a few, and many people were destroyed by it. This is coming from a different place, though, than McCarthyism came from. And if we make it through this and back to a world where you and I can speak freely on this podcast, and I can write freely on Dorf on Law, and I'm not worried about my classes being taped and then shown to somebody because in my class, I don't run away from the facts about Justice Thomas.
Right.
I give him the facts. That's what I do. If we ever get back to this world, this will be looked at like McCarthyism and war. And I hope we get back to that world. But I want to be careful. These two people they were afraid. And now it turns out some of the employees gave them free drinks, and some of the employees.
The people at the comedy club?
Yes. But it was a dangerous situation for them. And that's what we don't know. And that's the point I was trying to get to very inartfully, because I'm very conflicted about all of this. We're living in really dangerous times for people. And people, to be truly honest, I can afford to lose my job financially. I'm 67. My wife works. I have pensions. But there are a lot of that professor at Texas A&M, I have no idea what her personal life is like. But she might have to need that job to support her family. I don't know. And she's gone. What's amazing about that story is the president of Texas A&M had to resign because he didn't fire her fast enough. I mean, he fired her, which was wrong. And then he had to resign because he didn't act fast enough. That's the speed of which all of this is happening. So I just want to be clear to your audience, who might also be, thinking the same things you and I are thinking about their lives and their jobs and their school boards and what they want to say to their schools and all that it's okay to do whatever you want to do to get through this time. It's a terrible time. And this is one of the saddest conversations you and I have ever had, I think, in our very long relationship.
My concern is that I guess I have all the concerns. I found that comedian, I think Ben Bankus is his name. He's posted clips from his past weekend shows, and he's very kind of right wing, anti-vax type.
These two people they were only offended because it wasn't funny.
Well, I mean, yeah, but that's I just don't buy comedians that are headlining at comedy clubs on the weekend are funny. You might not find them funny. It irks the shit out of me when people say somebody's not funny. When you look around the room, a bunch of humans are laughing. What you should say is not funny to me. If a comedian has gotten as far as the Atlanta Punchline and they're the headliner, or they're selling out an arena, I might not think they're funny at all. But they're funny to some people. And the reason why I say that is the same reason we defend the kind of speech we hate. It's important. And I'm constantly attacked by people on the right. Like, I can't believe you're a comedian. You're not funny at all. All that stuff. And it's just like, not to you. And so being offended, but
is there no line?
No, you could be offended as you want, but I wouldn't be offended because someone's not funny. I'd feel bad for them if they're not funny, but I don't think that's true. I think they were offended because they weren't funny to them. And they were probably, I just watched, while you were talking, I watched the caption like for about 10 seconds. And I don't know, I heard noises coming out of your mouth, and I was like, people are watching. I'm sure they enjoy you saying. And I'm happy Jimmy Kimmel got fired. All of a sudden people care about people getting fired for things they say. And then he started going off on people that got canceled for being pro-vaccine or anti-vaccine. So I wouldn't have laughed at that. And I think that's gross and stupid and not funny, but I can see in the frame people laughing and clapping. They all look like the same guy. And that's unsurprising. They all look like they ran a hedge fund.
I want to be clear, because I think I misstated myself. I'm not, first of all, I'm never suggesting any kind of censorship or anything like that. No. I am saying these people felt unsafe in that environment. And I've been to that club so many times that's odd to me. And I also want to be clear that I agree with you. I think Chappelle is hilarious, and I don't care that he offends a lot of people. And I don't care that he offends trans folk. He does. He says crazy things. But I think he's hilarious. I'm not saying that. But there is a line in a small, compact place with no easy exits where not funny and dangerous.
Well, I mean, certainly if you are someone who is clearly a minority, that's probably the case. You're the only guy in the room with a yarmulke. You're the only black woman. You're the only, person who's a little bit flamboyantly dressed or whatever. But
did CNN have any? Did you get any pushback from CNN?
No. Not only that, I reached out to the anchor. I know everybody over there. I reached out to him after, and I was like, "Hey, man, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be like a dick." I go, I'm a bit angry right now, but. And he couldn't have been, so we're going to grab a beer. So we'll see if that happens. But he texted me back and was very thoughtful and respectful. So no, I haven't gotten anything from, but what happens usually in my case, you can never really know. And sometimes no one ever talks about it, but you just don't get invited back for a while. I mean, that happened.
Right.
I was on MSNBC like several weeks in a row or a bunch of times that month. And then I didn't have like a great appearance. And more importantly, like, to be honest with you, I talked over Eddie Glaude. And it was just like, I was grossed out by it. And I could see someone be like, he's not great on this panel or whatever. So you don't know. Sometimes it's chemistry and sometimes they're just, they do worry. But so far, no one's ever told me openly not to do or say something at SiriusXM or at CNN except for, and I've talked about this a lot openly at CNN when we were doing a 10-year anniversary. As you remember back when I hosted that show a billion years ago, the 10-year anniversary of Afghan war, we were covering it and I wanted to show flag draped coffins and they all looked at me and like, we don't do that. I was like, we don't show the cost of war.
Before we go, let's talk about law for 1 second.
Yes, please.
ABC is allowed to fire Jimmy Kimmel for any reason that the contract allows. We all know that. It's not a First Amendment question because ABC is not the government. But, and it's a big but, to the extent the government was involved in coercing Disney to fire him, there comes a line where government coercion of a private company to do something bad to someone because of speech can actually be a violation of law. The NRA, New York, decided to put a lot of pressure on companies not to deal with the NRA, really coercive pressure. And the private companies then didn't do business with the NRA. And the Supreme Court said New York couldn't do that. So there is it's a complicated area of the law. I don't want to oversimplify it. But if the government were to call up Disney and say, if you don't fire Jimmy Kimmel, we are going to tax you 20% more next year. Now we're talking about possible First Amendment violations. And I think I bring this up only because I fear that sometime in the next 6 months, you and I are going to be having that conversation, which is when does government coercion of a private company to fire somebody turn into a violation of law? We already have the case in New York last year.
What if the administration didn't explicitly order someone to do something, but kind of implicitly said it on a television show or podcast or a Truth Social post? That seems to also get the job done. I mean, the head of the FCC said we can do this the hard way and everybody knows what that means, but it's not, I don't know what that means in terms of legally. It's not like the head of the network and the FCC had a conversation. He's like, it's basically implied to be a shame if you didn't get your merger.
It would depend on the facts and testimony and evidence. The principle is the government is not allowed to coerce private companies to do things the government couldn't do itself or to do things that violate free speech rights. And whether they're actually coercing or not.
Well, is jawboning, this word I've been heard a lot of times, is that a legal term?
Yeah. Yes. Well, that's a legal term. It's what we call this. It's what we call when the government
but there's no
pressure. Because again, Disney can fire Jimmy Kimmel for any reason that the contract allows them to fire him. They can say, we don't like your position on Donald Trump and fire him. It's not a problem. But if the government forces ABC to do that, now we have
somebody pointed to ABC firing Roseanne years ago. And it was because of things that she said, horrible things that she said. Yeah. If they're, that's what people call cancel culture. And we've always called it consequences or the market. But if you lose all of your fans, your supporters, and you're not selling tickets as a musician because you were accused credibly or even found guilty of something horrible, I mean, it is what it is to a certain extent. The company at some point makes a decision. You're losing us more money and you're destroying our reputation. That's fine. They can do that. But that usually is because of a clamoring, an uprising somehow. Sometimes it's organized. Sometimes it's less of people, consumers going, I don't like it anymore. Like to people.
Well, in the Jimmy Kimmel case, that's what happened, right? Local stations said they weren't going to. Yes, it did.
No, but viewers didn't. Viewers did not.
No, but local station. But Disney's audience is not the people.
But the local stations said what they said because they're all interested in the business deal. Nobody really thought what Jimmy Kimmel said. It didn't start. Like that wasn't usually when someone says something offensive, it catches fire immediately. The thing about this, which is fascinating, why we shouldn't talk about it very much, is no one reacted to that. No one thought that what he said was outrageous. There wasn't a clamoring. People watched it over and over and goes, where is the offensive part? Certainly some people didn't like it, but this was about these stations themselves and their owners wanting to be part of a merger that everyone would benefit from, trying to find a reason and a cause, and that's what they did to make the king happy.
So maybe the last point ought to be this. In 2016, you and I had a really kind of at the time funny, because we didn't see what was happening, debate about who would be a worse president, Donald Trump or Ted Cruz. Remember, we had that conversation.
But that sounds amazing.
And we did. And it was a close call. We both agreed it was a close call at the time. When Ted Cruz is calling out the Republican president of the United States, I'm not doing this, by the way. I'm not saying Ted Cruz is right around. I'm just observing. I'm just observing that even Ted Cruz has spoken out against this environment. We know we're in a little bit of trouble. One last point, Pete. I went to Emory University, which is around the corner from my house. It's a major private elite university in America. And now has a temporary black female president who used to be a Supreme Court justice in the state of Georgia, someone I know. And the very first major thing she did upon taking the presidency of Emory University, the interim presidency of Emory University, was she canceled all DEI programs at Emory.
All DEI programs.
All DEI programs. So what I want to say is, I have in the past on your show and many other places argued that affirmative action, which is not DEI, but affirmative action is both constitutionally legal and probably a good thing. And I think I could probably still say that today, as I just did. It's not legal anymore because of the Supreme Court, but I think they're wrong. But were I inclined to say, and
affirmative action for college admissions is not legal.
Were I inclined to say that in a state that had formalized legal segregation for a century, and the cradle of the civil rights movement, a place where John Lewis represented the people and where Andrew Young, and we've had black mayors since the 1970s. Emory is the biggest employer in the state of Georgia. For that university, I'm not saying this, but I was thinking about saying it, to end all DEI programs, given this moment in time, I'm not sure I could talk about that the way I want to talk about it in my own strategy. And that's really, and I'm an alum of the university, so I even have standing in that sense to talk about it. My wife teaches there, as you know. That's the environment we're living in. It is very, very chilly, and we need to get out of this.
Chilly? We might not get out of it soon or ever. How do you feel about that?
Sad.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do about it, though?
I am grateful, but I've learned to be grateful for the things you can be grateful for. I am grateful for our friendship. I am grateful for the show. I am grateful for our intertwining lives, friendships, and careers. And you will continue to hopefully build community, because that's the one thing that we can do to help people who need help. I mean, we all need help. You need help. You needed some serious help a few weeks back. Jesus. I was coming on Justice Thomas 20 minutes ago. It's terrible.
Just came on Justice Thomas. I mean, for God's sake, the world is really upside down.
There was something metaphorical about that.
All right.
That I could definitely get fired for. We're not going to go.
That was on me. I will take cancel me. There's no editing. We're live. I love you, buddy. I'll let you go. I know you got to go. I appreciate you joining me. Thank you very much. Click the red screen. I'm going to keep talking to people. All right. You can exit out at the bottom. It says leaves. It's going to take him forever to figure this out. Watch him. We're wearing this.
I'm doing it. Wait, here it comes.
Goodbye. It sounds like he was talking about, you know what? Disgusting. You guys are gross. If you laughed at that, you're terrible. You're worse. You should be canceled. You should be canceled for watching this and you're alone and you're laughing. That alone you should be canceled for. Thank you for watching very much. If you are not a subscriber, please support me so that I can sock away every quarter of each dollar you give me and buy cornmeal so that I can survive after. We should do a bit about how I'm going to support myself after my show, and my ability to earn by talking mostly is canceled, because I'm thinking of becoming a tradesman of some sort. but those jobs are really hard, and I'm just not, I don't know if I'm skilled enough. Plus, it's just so hard. At this point, you know, I'm going to be 50. So maybe I'll just be a driver of some sort. I don't know. Let me know how I should earn. And maybe if you could just give me a place to live rent free, then I wouldn't even need money. So I think that that's what you should probably be doing to support those of us who are going to be canceled and sent to the gulags. How to continue our dispatches from Radio Free America in the underground. I appreciate you joining us today and supporting us. Whoever you are supporting, I highly recommend today is the day that you click like and subscribe. Click like and subscribe to your favorite independent creators who are doing good stuff. Because if they do shut down the inner tubes and we're not able to come on these stations, Substack, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, then that's going to be, we have to find alternative platforms, and that's going to be a lot of work. But keep creating, supporting each other locally and virtually, however you can. I'll be hosting Hangout tonight at 8 p.m. You can also go watch my conversation with Canada's Dean Blundell earlier, although I heard there were some tech issues. And today I have on my show, if you haven't heard already, the great Randy Weingarten, who's just written this awesome book, Why Fascists Fear Teachers, Public Education and the Future of Democracy. It is so good. And in the chat, we'll find you a nice spot in the mountains to set up your pirate podcast station from. There's got to be some abandoned moonshine shacks out there. Thank you, Scott. Coming at you from the moonshine shack in the Adirondacks. Moonshine. You guys are awesome. I love you. I appreciate you very, very much. Hope to see you at the Hangout. If you're a paid subscriber, if you're not, subscribe now and join us tonight at 8. Get to know people all across the country and outside of the country. Support each other. Learn from each other. Lean on each other. Ask for help when you need it. And I'll talk to you later. My parents are going to be joining me for 2.5 days. So may the Lord open. It'll be great. I can't wait to see them. I think my mom's watching. Hi, Mama. She's in the car watching. Hi, Mommy. Remember when I couldn't camp out and I had to come home to the house because I couldn't sleep in a tent? I was such a little boy. All right, bye. Okay. I thought that was worth leaving on. Thanks for listening today, everybody. I appreciate you being here and supporting me. Patreon.com/Pete Dominic. You can always pay more if you'd like. And I hope to see you on Thursday at our Hangout. And that's it. 9 a.m. with Tim Wise live on YouTube and Substack and other places. And I hope that you have a good day. And I hope that you are finding joy. And that is it. Jon Carroll is going to have his release party November 6th in Virginia. I'm thinking about going. Who's joining? Let's talk about it. Take it away, Johnny.
Trees, you got to stand up. Hey, you've been sitting so long, you got the creaky knees, you got to stand up. Stand up. I think you're driving wheels with leaking grease. Boy, you better stand up. Stand up. Well, there's a whole lot more of us who know us right. They'll keep right on ignoring us if we keep sitting tight. You got to open up the window to let in some light. You got to stand up. That's right. You got to rise up. You got to stand up. You got to stare the devil straight in the eye. You got to let him know it's his turn to go. See it clear when all you hear is a lie. Don't get up off of your butt, down off of your fence. Even if it ain't a very friendly audience, they'll begin to listen when you start making sense. And you stand up, stand up. No need to point your rifle to defend your town. Just stand up, stand up. You know they can't deny you what you're laying down. Boy, you better stand up, stand up. Show your face of every color, yellow, black, red, and brown. She's the place where every lost child will finally be found. There's only one thing to do before we stand our ground, and and that's stand up, stand up. Well, the founding fathers saw a land for all. They had to stand up, they had to stand up. They had a keen imagination for a crystal ball, drawing all the plans of a stand up. But all they had to go on was the time they were in, with other causes for laws, and since they weren't even sin, they knew that change was gonna come before the change could begin. They had to stand up. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We gotta let him know it's his time to go, and make it clear when all we hear is a lie. Why you lying awake wondering where the money all went? It'll be the cost of freedom that'll go unspent. You can see him flee the scene of that experiment if you stand up. All right, we got to speak up, we got to reach up and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be toes up, you got to show up. Ain't no better time to do it but now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up, show obedience to the voice inside, and listen well and it'll tell you not to run and hide. It says stand up.